Please find your seats. Please find your seats. There's a lot of room in these first few rows. Please come sit if you are standing. We will get started in 1 minute. Plenty of room in these couple of first rows. A little bit over there. A little bit of room over here. Please find a seat. Good morning, Arlington. Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the 2023-24 school year. We know it is warm in here. We have jacked up the air conditioning. Our construction company is working on that, so hopefully it will begin to cool off a little bit for us in here. We also know that there were a couple challenges with the sign-in form. You can do it at any time today, and we have unlocked the need for you to sign in. So go grab the link at any point before you leave to sign in. And if you're having issues with it, it could be because so many people are trying to access it at the same time, so you can try again a little bit later. If you're still having trouble with it and you were here, don't worry. We will get you signed in. It will be fine. I am going to pass it off in just 1 moment to our school committee chair, but I wanted to say thank you all for being here. I'm very energized about the start of the school year. I'll have more remarks for you in just a moment. But for now, let's kick it off. I'm going to hand it over to Paul Schlickman, the vice chair of our school committee.
Thank you, and good morning. On behalf of Chair Kirstie Allison-Ampe and my friends and colleagues on the Arlington School Committee, let me wish you a happy new school year. 21 years ago, when I visited the Point Reyes Light in California, I saw it as a perfect metaphor for the first day of school. You approach the lighthouse from the top of a set of 313 stairs. A sign warns you that the stairway is equal to the height of a 30-story building, and you can't experience the lighthouse without returning up those 313 stairs. We were just like the first day of school. We run down the staircase on the first day full of joyous beginnings, full of that happy anxiety of sharing the start of a 180-day journey with students and colleagues. As educators, we make this journey because it is important, because it's in our hearts and souls, because it is a joy and an honor to influence the lives of our students. Your school committee, your district leaders recognize our role to support your important work. We recognize the excellence you bring to this work. We are grateful that you are committed to making this 180-day journey in Arlington. As you climb that long staircase, take the time to look back at the beauty of the ocean and lighthouse. Find a way to celebrate each step, to bring joy to every school day, even the ones in the middle of March. Wish each other, your students, your colleagues, a happy school day. For when you reach the top of those 313 stairs, when you finish the school year, we will rejoice in the growth of your students. You will embrace the opportunity to step back from the intensity of teaching until this time next year, when we will return here to satisfy the urge to run down the 313 stairs to celebrate another happy school year. Thank you. Pass the program to AEA President Julie Keys.
Good morning. Nobody told me I was supposed to bring pictures. All right. Welcome back. I am Julie Keys. I am the president of the Arlington Education Association. Very excited to be starting my 20th year teaching here in Arlington. I'm happy to be standing before you in my 4th and final year as your union president, ready to face the struggles and successes that I'm sure are awaiting us, knowing that we're all going to be working together for our students from pre-K through seniors. My friends say I have a particular way of starting with stories with random travel references, so I'm going to do that to you today. This summer, I was camping in the Okavango Delta of Botswana without any cell service for a few days. When I emerged in the land of the hippos and the giraffes, I saw the news that the Screen Actors Guild had gone on strike, joining the Writers Guild. And I watched the video of Fran Drescher's speech announcing the strike, and immediately was in awe that TV's The Nanny and I have the same job as union president. Did not think that was coming this year. But it sent me down a spiral of thinking about how members of SAG and the Writers Guild really do have a lot in common with educators. We both have jobs that carry an impact on people long after the actual work is done. We're both worried about the impact of AI on our careers. We are both in fields where, while some people make a decent living, the rank and file are woefully underpaid and often have to work 2nd and 3rd jobs just to make ends meet. And finally, we are both strong union careers. To be in a union is quite literally to unite with your colleagues to make your job better. For us, this means making our schools better for educators, which in turn means making them better for students. We work in a field where it's very easy to just close the door and teach. In fact, that's advice I was given early in my career when we hit a particularly bumpy patch here in Arlington. Shut out all the distractions going on in the building and in the district and in the world, and just immerse yourselves with your students and your curriculum, and it will all work out somehow. We should never let the frustrations of the hallway or the inbox influence our classroom. So close the door and teach can be really sound advice. It's gotten me through a lot of rough times over the past 2 decades. There are still days where I fall back on close the door and teach. When you don't know the schedule for the half day tomorrow, so you can't really plan. When you're facing a change of grade level or curriculum or classroom or your team. When you're trying to advocate for a student, but you're not seeing eye to eye with others about what they need. When the world keeps asking more and more of you as a teacher, but it gives you less and less to accomplish that with. On those days, we get through by closing all of that out and being present with our students, relishing in the joy of learning inside the 4 walls of the classroom. But I've realized somewhere along the way that close the door and teach is a survival strategy, not a long-term philosophy. Because while it is great to shut out the distractions and the noise, it also shuts out the vital connections that we make that make education meaningful and great. I am a better teacher when I'm working with a team who can catch my errors, refine my work, or motivate my lessons by their own experiences in the classroom and in life. I can modify work for students, but I do a better job of it when working with a group of experts who know how to motivate those who struggle and tweak wordings and layouts to make things easier to process. I can make word walls and WIDA standards, but my multilingual students will thrive if I coordinate with the ML teacher to bulk up background knowledge or reinforce complex academic language. I can find resources on my own, but it's a heck of a lot easier with a librarian or a library para to guide me. I can better reach students when I work with their other teachers for a more comprehensive approach, when I work with counselors and social workers to address barriers to education, when I know if my students are thriving in their specials, so I can figure out how to use some of those strategies in my classroom. All of these people, along with the aides and the administrators and everyone else in schools, make me a better teacher in those moments when I might be tempted to just close myself in. And the other thing I've realized is that we can close the door and teach because someone else out there is not doing that. Someone is stepping up to solve the problems. They're serving on the leadership team. They're creating the club where students feel belonging so they're more able to engage in class. They're having the tough conversations to solve our problems. If we all showed up and walked into our rooms and went home again when the bell rang, our schools would cease to function. It's that extra, fairly compensated, of course, that makes our schools welcoming places for students and staff. Indeed, what I found is that education is so much more than one teacher in one classroom. It is a massive team of interconnected adults all working to support and challenge and rejoice with students through their 12+ years in our district. Your union is here to manage that entire network, but I can't do that alone. So I urge all of you to find a way to be involved outside of your classroom this year. Find a committee, a student club, a professional network, a book club, a social organization, a dance team, the union, anything that will help you make those connections with your colleagues. Yes, it is time and it is mental energy, and those are so highly in demand, but the outcome of all of it will make your day-to-day life much easier in the long run and will ultimately improve all of our working conditions, which are our students' learning conditions. So if you're new to Arlington, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. If you haven't joined the union yet, I have enrollment forms with me, so come find me. We are stronger when we are together. The past few years have proven that we can weather anything. I wish you all a wildly successful year and look forward to making connections with you all sometime soon. Thank you. Up here, you have text messages. And I am going to introduce Mr. DiLoretta, who is the president of the Arlington Administrators Association.
Now that is a tough act to follow. Thanks, Julie. So, before I begin, I will say this is year 28 for Rock DiLoretto in Arlington. I am so proud of that. I started here in September of 1996, well before emails. Imagine? That's the truth. That is the truth. We didn't even have emails in 1996. And it's the truth. It was a much better time for me, let me tell you. Okay? Because this morning, when I had to sign into that thing, that QR code, I'm standing over there with my phone, and I'm like, why can't I sign in? Because I didn't hit that little app that's camera. But I'm here today. In my office, several years ago, I went on a life-changing trip, a Holocaust tour. We went to the Czech Republic, we went to Germany, and we visited camps, and we just immersed ourselves in learning about humanity, learning about love, learning about atrocity. And it changed my life. And the very last day of our tour, we were outside of Munich, and there is this famous castle. I forget the town we were in now, but it's in the castle at Disney World is the castle in Germany that we all got to visit. And at the point is, at the base of the mountain is a community. And it's where they make cuckoo clocks, okay? And so I'm there with the late Nancy Ortwine and others, teachers from Arlington, and we were going through all these cuckoo clock stores, and she bought this cuckoo clock that was worth about $1,000, okay? And we were saying and laughing about how it's cuckoo at Arlington High School. And so in my office, I have this $5 cuckoo clock that we got at Walgreens, and I put it up on my wall. And every once in a while I look at it and I'm like, yeah, this place is insanity, but I love it. And on my clock, it is 2:40 for us old-fashioned people that can still tell time. And that's 28, okay? So for me, in a couple of more years, bye-bye, I'm retired. All right, so here's what I wrote. In 3 years, I might be doing stand-up, you never know. Don't take yourself too seriously in education, people. Let's not take ourselves too seriously, okay? Let's leave the egos at the door and let's serve the community. Let's serve the kids. Let's pay attention to the kids that need us the most. That's my mission for this year. Leave no stone unturned. That's my mission. Okay, good morning. Now I'm going to read. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. It's so nice to see so much. This is the boring part, okay? But I wrote it this morning because I was shivering in my office of social anxiety of speaking and dancing, okay? That was tough. It's so nice to see so much excitement and enthusiasm on opening day this year. Very special welcome to our new staff. Sincerely, thank you for choosing Arlington, and I hope you find our district to be welcoming and supportive. I really have been trying to think about something meaningful to say to you. I'm trying to be serious now. Trying to sum up what you do into a brief statement. It's impossible, because everything you do is impactful on the lives of our students. And this is the truth. Next Tuesday morning, the minute your first student is in front of you, you will hit the ground running and you will work tirelessly until the final minute of the final school day. Between the first and the last day, you will laugh, you may cry, you will teach, you will learn, you will sprint, and you will crawl. You will have energy, and you will be exhausted. And above all else, you will have the chance to earn the trust and build lifelong relationships with your students. To me, that is powerful and that is meaningful. I hope you all have a wonderful school year. And it's my honor to introduce our superintendent, Dr. Henry.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rob. That was fantastic. A wonderful reminder that we really shouldn't take ourselves too seriously. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But first, I want to introduce you to some folks. I'm going to invite the senior leadership team to come on up, have a seat on the couches. We've had some new faces join the Arlington Public Schools. We've done some reorganization. We've eliminated some roles and added new ones and done some shuffling around. And so I wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to meet some of the people who work closest with me and who advise me and help me every single day. And I wanted you to see their faces and know who they were, because sometimes we just get to be anonymous emails in your inbox, and sometimes that's annoying. So I wanted you to put faces with names. And we have some questions that all of you asked that I am going to have them pull from this bucket donated by Food Services. Thank you. And we have no idea what we're about to pull out of here, and we have all of your questions in here, so we'll see how this goes. And some of you said exactly who you wanted to have answer it, and some of you didn't. We'll spend only about 10 minutes on this because we have some more to do. So who wants to draw first?
Yes. Hello, everybody. I am Margarita Thomas, and I'm the Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Belonging, and Justice. So this question is for any of us, and it says, we really need higher pay. I'm not sure if this is my question, but I will try to answer it. Can you please share your goals on how we can make this happen? So I think this might... Finance guy.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Well, this is a surprising question. My name is Michael Mason. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations. Can you repeat that question? Thank you very much. Can you repeat that question one more time? Well, let me read it. You know, I'm kind of starting to sweat now because this is a real deal question. I mean, from my perspective, my role is to advocate the best that I can for the dollars that we can get for the Arlington Public Schools. So for those that may not know the structure of the town is that Arlington Public Schools receives its funding through the taxpayers that pay taxes to the town of Arlington, who then allocate dollars to Arlington Public Schools. And so I intend to continue to advocate as we always do, but as well as try to further do some analysis and assessment on how we currently spend to then be able to find additional dollars to then be able to hopefully do that in the future.
I can add on to what he said. Sometimes the numbers help. So similarly sized districts, do we have feedback? Similarly sized districts to Arlington with 6,000 students, their bottom line budget, and I'm naming the numbers for a couple of districts that are nearby, some of our competitors, their bottom line budget is in the 130 millions. Ours is 88 million. That's our allocation. So that's the dollars we have to do with. The other things Michael was talking about in terms of analysis is we can take a look at how much of that 88 million are we spending on salaries versus stuff. And we can and are increasing the percentage of that bucket from what it was a few years ago, around 70%, to about 80%. So were we about close to 80% now? Yeah, we can't go much further than 80% because we still need stuff to teach. But one of the things that we're going to be doing this fall that a group of really committed citizens in Arlington are going to be doing is going out for an override. And the goal of that override, the primary pitch point of that campaign, as I understand it, is tied to our strategic plan, and it is about compensation for all of you. That's the goal. So it's really important. And we're really dedicated to improving pay because we know that we're behind. And we know that we can't compete, and we see it every day as hiring managers when we lose a candidate. And we hate that. So we really need the best educators in Arlington. When asked by the Finance Committee if you do any part of the strategic plan, which part of it would you do? That was what I said, that one part. That's it. We would forget everything else, and we would focus on compensation, because you're the ones who do the hard work in front of kids, and we need you to be fairly compensated for that.
Good morning, everybody. Oh, come on now. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. My name is Dr. Mona Ford Walker. I'm the Deputy Superintendent of Teaching and Learning. What is deeper learning, and how can we learn more about it? Well, Dr. Holman is going to be sharing some more information about deeper learning shortly, so I'll say hold on to your socks for that amazing information that's going to come your way. But I'll quickly say that deeper learning is about making sure all of our students have access to really, really meaningful, engaging learning experiences that bring joy, that bring belonging, and that cause them to grow.
Hi, I'm Rob Spiegel. I'm the Human Resources Director. This is for the superintendent. Just curious, was there one instance or episode that inspired you to begin your successful journey to becoming a superintendent of a public school district?
No, but I've asked.
No. I applied to Arlington because a friend who lives here reached out to me, who worked with me at the time, and said, you should consider this. And I said I should, and I did, and now I'm here. I really never, this was not in the cards for me. I was gonna be a teacher, and then I was gonna be a professor, and then somehow I became an administrator because an opportunity came my way, and I loved leading and serving, and so I wound up here. It was an accident.
Hi, I'm Alice Nelmer, Assistant Superintendent of Student Services. So this question is for any of us, but I do think it's actually very good for me. How do you set boundaries between work and personal time? Any suggestions? I think for folks who know me in the district know that I might think I'm always on, because if you send me an email, a text, or whatever, you're likely to get a response in, I don't know, under 10 minutes. However, I realize that's not for everybody. So for me, I make choices. So, I prefer to have an empty inbox. If it means that I look at it and I think that's something that's going to require more of my time, then I have my own organizational system, set that up so I can come to it at another time. I make choices when I read and say, if I answer this, is it's going to allow somebody else to get their work done and prevent them from being held up or waiting around for my answer, then I might prioritize that. Simone, where are you? You're going to love my answer. I do my best with breath. There are literally times, and some of you might roll your eyes, those of you who have a yoga practice or practice heart math or that. It is incredible what you can do with your breath, and those who go to a coordinators meeting on Friday mornings rolls their eyes, as they have to do them every Friday morning. But those are some strategies that I have, and I also watch really trashy reality TV, so I don't mind answering an email while commenting on the latest fashion of the Real Housewives.
Hi everyone, my name is Wesley St-Pierre. I'm the Director of Communications and Family Engagement. And my question is for Dr. Holman. You ready? Sure. They love you here, clearly. What are 3 actions you are taking to make all staff feel more valued?
I'm going to try to take a pass and say I named one. We're really working on that compensation piece. Another one, and then I'm actually going to pass it to somebody else to answer, because I think all of us have answers to this one, is believing you. When someone comes to me and they say, this has been my experience, I believe you. Sometimes I have to go get more perspective, and I have to better understand what's going on. But I really try to practice believing you. And even in moments where it's hard, because the feedback is hard to hear. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. We also, one of the other things I said to the new teachers when they joined, is that we exist to support you. And so one of the things I do every day is try to make sure that that's the lens your leaders are leading from. I talk about that all the time. Like, we exist to serve the work that you do. And so the accountability goes down the organization. It's not up. You're not accountable. Up is not as important as being accountable towards the people who you serve, because you serve the kids. And that's the most important work in the system. So those are a couple of things I try to practice every day. It's not as concrete, maybe, as make sure everybody gets more pay, which we're gonna do, but it's daily practice. Anybody else have one more answer to that, and then we'll be done?
For me, it's to make sure that you're seen. So I had the privilege of doing PD with the cafeteria educators. They have new names. And so I think it's just important that when we're walking in the hallways and I try to do this, I smile and say hello. I think that when you do that, we're all saying that we see you and that you belong here. So it's what Dr. Holman says. Sometimes it's the smallest thing that we can do to make anyone feel valued.
Am I speaking again? Yeah. Oh, I'm closing this out. You weren't going to tell me that? Well, it was Nice to be up here with all these questions. I want to answer one.
Yeah.
Is that all right? She's sauce. How and why did you decide to become a school administrator? You want me to answer? Yeah. Do y'all want me to answer? Oh, well, since you asked. For myself, I enjoy working with educators. The best parts of my work was when I was able to support a colleague, and being able to be in a position where I can support more of my colleagues. It's just simple as that for me. Yeah.
All right, thank you, senior cabinet team. I will release you from this. Okay, I have a few brief remarks for you, and then we will be on our way. Are you fixing the pillows? All right, so I'd like to tell you about, so those of you who are getting to know me know that I am a believer in stories. I love stories. As a former English teacher, I'm a believer in the power of stories to make us laugh at the absurd, cry at the tragic, and generally better understand ourselves as humans. So I'm going to tell you a story, and I will be honest with you, Margaret had to convince me to do this. This is a story that required me to shake off a little bit of pride in order to share with all of you here today. It's a story about the best advice I ever got in my career. When I was in my third year teaching, I had a co-teacher. I got to experience the joy of co-teaching. Her name was Sarah. And Sarah knew the students in our co-taught section really well because she had had them for a full year before that. They were in 10th grade. She had them in 9th grade. And we had one student in class. His name was Andy, not his real name. And Andy, he was very social. He was a social butterfly. He was the comic of the room. And on one particular day, about 2/3 of the way through the school year, he was having a rough day. He was having trouble attending to class. There was some drama going on outside of class that had come on into class, and he was having trouble attending to the lesson. And Sarah and I had dug through our toolbox, and we thought we had expended most of the tools in there. We had given him some tips, we had given him some scaffolds to help attend to the task. We had given him some strategies that he could use to help refocus himself when he was feeling distracted, and we had moved his seat. And it was towards the end of class, and I looked over while I was giving an instruction, and I saw Andy's mouth moving out of the corner of my eye, and his head turned towards the student next to him. And I got hot and frustrated. And I quickly pulled out what I thought was my last strategy in the box. It wasn't. My co-teacher was about to give me another one. But I pulled it out, and I said, Andy, go wait in the hallway. I will be there in a second to talk to you. Andy stomped out of class, slammed the door. I finished my instruction, I went outside to talk to him, and I thought I was going to be inviting him right back in, but he let out a string of words that I can't repeat here because one of you might record me and put it on social media. So I wasn't sure what to do. It was fairly uncharacteristic of Andy. It wasn't uncharacteristic for him to be thinking about all the social stuff in his life, but it was uncharacteristic for him to behave that way. So I said, okay, you cool off out here, and we'll circle back to this later. So I went back in, we finished out class, there were only 5 minutes left. Everybody leaves. And I look at Sarah, and I start explaining what happened. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, and I start working through my options of discipline, and Sarah is quiet, and I was like, what? And she said, can I give you a bit of friendly advice? I was like, uh-oh. I kind of bristled a little bit, because I knew whatever she was about to say was probably gonna be a little bit hard to hear. But she said it, so I was like, well, now I have to know, so yeah, tell me. And the next thing she said was the best advice I've ever gotten in my career, and I still use it to this day. Sarah said, when you think you know what is happening, stop, watch, and count to 10. She told me that if I had done that, what I probably would have noticed was that the student sitting next to Andy was being the distractor, and that Andy was using a strategy that not 10 minutes before I had given him. He was actually deploying the strategy that I just told him to use. That if I had waited 10 seconds, what I might have seen was a student being successful, not a student being distracted. I was like, oh. Sort of sunk into my seat. I thought about what would happen if I disciplined him. That wasn't gonna work. I thought about what would happen if I did nothing. That wasn't gonna work. I didn't know what to do. I was turning hot and red again. So I looked at Sarah and said, well, now what do I do? And then she gave me the second best piece of advice I've ever gotten in my career, which was fantastic. She said, what's stopping you from apologizing? I was like, okay, great. Well, I'm gonna take that because I don't know what else to do. So I looked up his class really quick. This all happened in 4 minutes during passing period. That was how fast this interaction happened. It takes me longer to tell it to you than it actually took to transpire. So I looked up his class really quickly. I had time before the bell rang. He was right above me. I shot up the stairs. I pulled him out of class and I said, Andy, I'm sorry. I should have paid attention to what was going on for a little bit longer before I asked you to go out into the hallway. And he was floored. He told Sarah later that day that he was fully expecting when he saw me in the door for me to hand him an attention slip. Fully expecting. So when I apologized, he was like, what? And then he surprised me and apologized to me for the behavior in the hallway. For the rest of the year, Andy continued to be the comic of the room, he continued to be social, and he continued to use the strategies Sarah and I gave him to be successful in school. And at the end of the year, all of the kids in that class signed a t-shirt for me, and Andy wrote on the shoulder, in true Andy fashion, I will always be watching over your shoulder. Still have that t-shirt. So, it's true though. Andy will always be watching over my shoulder. That comment was perfect because that advice has stayed with me this whole time. Sometimes I have to wait more than 10 seconds. Sometimes I gotta sleep on it, or for multiple days. But that advice has really stayed with me, and it's memorable because, not because necessarily of just what I learned from it and the fact that I got that strategy from it, but because of what it required me to shake off. It required me to shake off what I thought I knew about what was going on in that room. It required me to trust somebody else's perspective and vantage point more than I trusted my own. It required me to shake off what I thought I knew about somebody else's behavior. I thought Andy was continuing the same behavior he had continued for the whole class period, not shifting it. I had to shake that off. I had to shake off what I thought I knew about my job, what you do when a student behaves in a certain way, what I thought should happen in response to that. I had to shake that off too. I had to shake off my pride with my colleague in the face of feedback. I had to shake off my pride in the face of harm that I had done to a student. It taught me a lot about belonging because if I had not had safety with Sarah, she may not have ever told me that. She hesitated. She asked me, do you really want to hear this? If I hadn't had belonging and safety in that space, I might not have taken the advice and gone and done something with it. And if I hadn't actually done what she said in that moment, she might not have ever given me any critical feedback again. So that space was a belonging space. I felt seen and ready to take some really hard feedback. Octavia Butler tells us that kindness eases change, that love quiets fear, that a sweet and powerful positive obsession blunts pain, diverts rage, and engages each of us in the greatest, most intense of our chosen struggles. Our shared positive obsession in this room is creating a space where every single student feels seen and heard and ready and able to learn. Our most intense chosen struggle is the fact that we decide to do that in a society and in a system that is broken. It's hard work. It's really hard work to do that, especially for students who may not have felt seen in their lives, who may have situations in their lives that make them come to school thinking about a lot of other things every single day, where it's really easy for us to make assumptions. Octavia reminds us that change involves fear, pain, and even sometimes rage, and that the only medicine for that is kindness and love. So I want to talk about that for just a second. Last year I showed you this spectrum and said, this is the journey we're on. It's transformational, right? It's going to require a lot of change. And then what we really needed to focus on was belonging in Arlington. And we're going to keep doing that. We're going to stay there because we have not arrived. But I want to point out something about belonging. Culture is big. It's a big thing. But belonging lives in the smallest of stuff, in the 4 minutes during passing period with a colleague, in the spaces we inhabit together, in the relationships we have with one another, in the words we write in an email, sorry Rob, that we shoot off to a colleague really quick. So we are the Arlington Public Schools. The system is not me and the wonderful people who sat up here. That's not the district. We're the district. And we can only achieve this journey if we all do it together and if we do it in the smallest of things. Some of you have asked what deeper learning is, so I'm going to give you a little bit of an answer, but I'm sorry, it's not a very satisfying one because there's not a one-sentence definition for deeper learning. But deeper learning is about improving the connection between our hearts and our minds, slowing down enough, pausing enough to make sure we let the heart in, let the kindness in, let the love in. It's about stopping and counting to 10. Deeper learning is also about belonging, growth, and empowerment, making sure you give over power to someone else. So I want to introduce you to some students who we empowered to do some fun stuff with us over the past couple of weeks. Those of you who want to join us, come on up. All right, everybody. So if you were out in the lobby a little bit ago, and you happened to be in the right spot where you could see it, you might have noticed a bunch of us making complete fools of ourselves, except for these people. They were great. And I'm going to tell you what we asked them to do, and then I'm going to ask them some questions. So what we really wanted to do was give our administrators and our teacher leaders who joined us for Leadership Workshop an experience of deeper learning. And so we asked some students to choreograph a dance for us and then teach it to us. So we gave them a couple of supports, a teacher. We offered them a dance coach. They said, no, we don't need that. They choreographed the whole thing, and then they became our teachers. They taught us the dance. We got super vulnerable. We became the students. Perspective, shift. It put us in the seats of being vulnerable, and them in the seats of being powerful. I will never forget that moment where you raised your hand, and we all raised our hands, and you were like, ooh, that's cool. So I want to talk to them a little bit about what that was like. I have a few of their names up here, but I'll ask you all to introduce yourselves as you talk. So here are your 2 questions. What was most memorable for you about the experience of teaching your teachers and administrators how to dance? And what did you learn about learning and taking risks from this experience? You can answer either of them, and I'll start with whomever.
Yeah, my name is Madeline, and oh my gosh, trying to think of like how many people know me in this room. That's scary. And I'm going to senior year, and I taught teachers how to dance. That was really cool. I think the most memorable thing to me was kind of just the enthusiasm that everybody really had, and it just kind of showed me that like all my teachers, all my administrators like have such a passion and such an excitement to work with us as students, and like how good they were at listening. And I just thought, I was like, wow, like maybe I should try some of this. But it's okay. It was so much fun, and I just really appreciated the enthusiasm. What's the second question? What did you learn? Oh yeah. And then I think the biggest thing I remember learning was just that it was a collaborative process. I had to ask over and over, does this make sense? Should we go back or should we go on? What do we need to go over? And then my students would ask questions back, and we were just asking questions back and forth, and I feel like that taught me, like I'm always somebody who's been really afraid to ask questions in class, and just seeing it shown and seeing my teachers, my administrators being uncomfortable and being okay, not knowing what was going on and asking questions showed me that that is something that I can do, and that's okay.
Hi, I'm Nadia. So the first question, when we started this process, as a student, I kind of always assumed that the learning happening in a classroom went one way, that I was learning and the teacher was teaching and nothing else was happening. But teaching teachers really made me realize that we're all learning, and that was a really cool experience. And the second question, when I was first invited into this project, I was kind of terrified, because doing a flash mob in front of a bunch of teachers is kind of terrifying. But I'm so glad I did, because taking that risk was so important, and I had so much fun. And then watching the same teachers who were taking that risk and stepping outside their comfort zone to do a dance, to shake it off, and just have fun, and watching them have so much fun and just really enjoy it was really incredible, and taught me a lot about how important taking risks is.
I'm Nahar, and I think the most memorable moment is seeing the similarities in the like joyous and hesitance between the people that I was teaching, who are like, have such different life experiences than my fellow students, but seeing the similarities in their acting and the way that they are when learning, and seeing how it's not a thing about age or what you already know. It's like being put outside of your comfort zone is scary for anyone, and there needs to be more similarity and connection between what I feel like I think there is between the teachers and the students. And what is it? Oh, and I think taking risks is I felt I was going to be criticized because like these are people who teach people for their jobs. This is what they make money from. I'm doing this just because like I was put in this position. And I was scared that I was not gonna do well, and like the people were gonna be like, oh, look at this, like the girl just trying to teach us, this is what we do, why is she doing it? But everyone was so nice. And it's amazing how welcoming people are.
Just one more thing. There was another student who did all of this with us, and this was the entire class is named Qua, and she was not able to be here today. So I just wanted to give her some credit for that.
I was not expecting to be up here, so I'll speak up. But the most memorable part for me was just, my name's Ella, and I'm a rising freshman, and it was really great to see like the energy in my group especially was so good. Everyone being so excited and enthusiastic about dancing and learning how to dance. It was just really amazing, and being able to have teachers come up to me and like thank me afterwards. It was really great being able to feel like I was doing something for teachers. And learning, I feel like I just learned how to, like I have a different perspective on teachers now, because I've spent so much time with them that like when rehearsals and things, it felt like we were all just people. It wasn't like a teacher and then I was like below them or anything, and it was really great to be able to like feel like I was friends with them and not like I had to be scared of them or anything.
I'm Clover, a rising freshman, and I think the most memorable thing for me is when we were all assigned like groups to teach this dance to. While we were teaching them, and I could see them like learning and like relaying information that was given to them and like processing it into a dance. I sort of like felt this little bit of pride, and I just see like teachers so differently now, because I was always sort of closed-minded about the subject of like, oh, teachers are they're just there for, you know, getting a paycheck. But now I think it's genuinely more than just a job. I really feel like I learned what it means to teach someone, because you can't just step into a room and tell a bunch of people things and expect them to remember it. You have to like have a sense of vulnerability and openness to that group of people. It's just such like an important factor to have a bond with someone while you're teaching them, because it's like different than just normal, like, how do I say it? It's different than normal communication with people. You need to make sure you connect with someone in such a way that they can learn something from you and you can learn something from them. And I think
that's So my name is Spencer. I am going to be a freshman this year. And I think that the most memorable part of this whole experience was, so we spent the morning learning the dance, and then in the afternoon we got to all rehearse it together, and everybody put it together. And there's a part of the dance where we turn around and look toward each other. And I think the most memorable part for me was seeing it come together for the first time and seeing teachers I'd had in elementary school and middle school and I'm going to have in high school all doing this dance that we had just taught them in the morning, and just seeing them all come together and do that was super memorable, and it brought me a ton of joy just seeing that. And I think what I really took away about learning here is coming in, I had kind of heard deeper learning as part of the strategic plan, but I didn't quite understand really what deeper learning was. And I think that teaching the dance to teachers, I think really taught me about how, I think this is a more obvious example about how things like belonging are super important to learning, because dance is something that it feels like more kind of putting yourself out there, taking the risks. And this is a thing where if you're not willing to do that, you're not comfortable, the learning isn't going to happen. But I think that it's almost a direct parallel to the classroom, where if you're not being included and you're not willing to ask questions, you don't feel that sense of belonging, the learning also isn't going to happen. So that's where I feel like I really learned about deeper learning there. And I also learned about teachers' experiences, because I learned so much more about how you'll want to practice it, but you also want to answer questions, but then you have the time constraint. And I think at the very beginning, we didn't quite finish the whole dance in the first session, which was kind of stressful. So I realized our teachers are balancing all those things. So I think it really just gave me a greater appreciation. I learned a lot about deeper learning.
My name's Will. I'm a rising freshman at the high school. I think the most memorable moment for me is after we finished the dance in front of everybody. And we saw everybody that was dancing, they all had a smile on their face. And they all came up to me and everybody else, and they were like, great job, all that stuff. And I think that gave me a great sense of joy. And I think teachers feel that too at the end of the school year, when they kind of feel that sense of accomplishment. And I feel like that kind of made me connect with the teachers. Like, that's what they feel. And I feel like that's a great feeling, and I didn't think about this question. The biggest takeaway I had is the only way you grow is to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And I've known that for a while because I play sports and baseball, and that's kind of the biggest thing. Like, you need to be comfortable with trying a new thing, trying a new idea and that'll help you in the long run.
I'm going to be very brief and then dismiss you because there's really not much more to say. That's what deeper learning is really about. It's about giving over power when you have a little bit. Toni Morrison said, if you are free, you need to free somebody else. If you have some power, not much, any at all, a little bit, then your job is to empower someone else. That's what deeper learning is. This year we're going to keep focusing on belonging, because like I said, we've not arrived. But we're going to add that growth layer. We're going to think about what it means to grow, to be uncomfortable. We're going to lean in. We're going to stop and look and ask ourselves, do I need a little more perspective here? Do I not have the full picture? Who can I go and talk to and ask more questions of? So if that's what deeper learning requires us to do, then I invite you to do a few things this year. And these all come from other people's words, not mine. Adrienne Marie Brown tells us that we need to experience compassion for the parts of ourselves that make mistakes. We need to love ourselves through the mistakes. We're gonna make mistakes, we're gonna mess it up. One of the questions that we got in the bucket that we didn't actually pull out was, what do you want us to do when we as leaders are upholding the kind of culture we don't want, white supremacy culture, or culture that really distracts us from the equity work we're trying to do. We want you to tell us, because we know we're gonna mess up. We're gonna make mistakes, and we're gonna try to love ourselves through those. I invite you to stop, watch, count to 10, see what else you need to find out. Wisest words ever spoken to me. And I invite you, when necessary, to apologize without explanation, to lay down those defenses, because we don't really need them. And as our students just reminded us, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And so it's okay to admit when we didn't get it right. It's going to be an amazing school year, Arlington. Go get them. Literally, you can leave now. Go to your department meetings. There are signs posted. Make sure you sign in. Enjoy the rest of your day, and have a great school year.